Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rich. We're going to be creating some picture frames for a mirror, and I decided that I wanted to use some of this pallet wood to develop a frame. This is a kind of a neat way to be able to draw some interest to those frames. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Alright, so I was able to get all of the pallet boards that I needed for this project pulled apart and got the best ones that I feel are going to be the best looking in terms of like distressed. And some of the ones that I cut with the Sawzall, I'm actually going to go ahead and leave the nails in for some of those that are not sticking out. That are kind of countersunk into the wood. It just adds to the appeal and the kind of the aesthetic of what we're shooting for here. I really like this darker wood, and I'm going to try to use as much of this as I can on the project. But what I'm planning to do is use these for my fronts, and I'm going to, rather than do like 45s like you normally would do on a picture frame, I'm going to do butt joints, so I'm going to do something to the effect of like this, which adds to kind of the aesthetic of what I'm going for. But I do need to cut these pieces of wood down, so I do need to rip them so that they're somewhat the same width of these. So I'm going to attach these with pocket screws, but then I'm going to take a board, I'm going to put a rabbet in this board so that it holds the mirror in place, and then I can kind of screw this into the front side. The next step is to go ahead and take these boards and rip them down so that they're all equal widths. I've got the boards ripped down to size, so I actually used this board as my reference to the width of the rest of the boards, because this one is 3 1/4 inches wide. I ripped these other ones down to 3 1/4 as well, so that I could utilize this one as a whole piece, and I didn't have to actually rip it, because when you rip the board, you actually see the clean part of the wood. So I'm going to have to distress that. So you want to keep that in mind as you're building it, because you're going to have to distress the areas in which you cut, or try to hide them as much as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the mirror overlap the frame by a 1/2 inch on each side, on all sides. So this is 31, so that actually works out great, because the 32 will overlap a 1/2 inch up here, and it'll overlap a 1/2 inch on the top. But the width, I need to make sure that the inside, from inside frame to inside frame, is going to be 27 inches in width. Since my overall width is 28, I'm going to cut it by 1 inch so that I got a 1/2 inch on each side. So what I need to do is kind of line it up flush here, because that's the way I'm going to attach it. And I need to get a measurement of where 27 inches is on the inside so that I can make a mark. Right here is 27 inches. So that's where I know that this board needs to line right up with that. So my overall width for this board, or the length of this board, needs to be 33 3/4. So this board and this board need to be 33 3/4, and that will give me my dimensions for this frame that we're going to construct. Okay, so now we've got the frame the way we want it. It's pretty square. Next thing we need to do is go ahead and add some pocket screw holes to these so that we can screw into each board. So now that I've cut a rabbet into all these pieces, I can actually set the mirror on, and I've got it lined up the way I want. So it's about a 1/2 inch all the way around, and I just kind of want to line it up just to get an idea of how it's going to fit. So that fits pretty nicely, and then once I have it in place, then I can attach the top as well. And I don't need a large piece for the top. Most of the weight is going to be being held on that bottom one, so I wanted a solid piece there. I think what I want to do is just go ahead and attach this base one so that I know it's in place, and when I put the mirror in place, it will be lined up, and then I can just make some marks on the side to make sure that I've got it aligned properly before I attach these side pieces and top pieces. I figured I would go ahead and do this edge as well so that it's lined both, horizontally and vertically, and I can still slide this out so that I can do whatever staining I need to do, but I want to go ahead and attach this, and so I'm just clamping it right now while I got the glue on there, and I can just put some nails in it. Okay, so now that we've got the frames kind of put together, we can go ahead and begin to distress the areas that need some attention. So the areas where I rip the boards, the wood is exposed and it's really fresh and new and clean. So we want to kind of distress that so that it looks like the rest of the wood has been, distressed. Just mimic the rest of it. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and use just a nail punch and just a cold chisel, and we're just going to beat on the wood a little bit. Just this edge right here and these fresh cuts that I've made, we're just going to kind of give it a beat the edges and the corners here and there just to kind of beat it up a little bit, show that it's been used and not necessarily fresh and new. And then just take the chisel and kind of give it a pop here and there, just randomly. Doesn't have to be perfect. You're not really trying to make it as random as possible. And then take the punch and go a little bit deep, and then just wiggle it around, and then maybe down here do one at an angle. And then maybe here on the end, kind of do it. Now the other step that we need to do to kind of make it look like it's aged and weathered, like what we've got on this side, is to go ahead and get some stains. Now I'm just using what I have available. If you don't have anything, you'll want to go out and buy some. I've got some semi-transparent, like gray, semi-transparent gray, and then I got some Jacobin, which is a really dark, kind of like an espresso type of color. I've got some walnut, but walnut's got some red in it. I don't think I'm going to try. I'm going to try these two and see how it goes. I'm going to put a little bit of the. Let's put a little bit of the gray on first, because there is a lot of gray in it. We're just going to wipe on this gray. Kind of no rhyme or reason. Doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to get it covered. Now that we've got the gray on, we can go ahead and start with the Jacobin. I think we'll let this set for a little bit, and then I'll add another coat to it. So we're back at it this evening. The frames have had a chance to dry. The stain is now ready to be sealed and protected, and so I'm going to be using a wipe-on poly. What you'll need is just a couple of rags, just like similar to what you were using for stain. You want to, they say not to shake the can, but you definitely want to thoroughly mix it up, so you want to kind of go back and forth to make sure that all the ingredients in the polyurethane are good and mixed, but you don't want to shake it too hard to create a lot of bubbles, because it'll introduce bubbles in your finish. We're just going to go ahead and open this up and start sealing. So you want to get it good and saturated and wet so that you can wipe it on. And I'm not rubbing really hard, but I am putting it on fairly liberally, and just making sure that you get it rubbed into all the nooks and crannies, because this surface is really rough, and so you want to make sure that you get it in all those little surfaces. And now it's just a matter of repeating the process on the other one. Alright, so the first coat has had a chance to dry, and we're ready to put a second coat on. So get another clean rag and mix it up and repeat the process. Okay, second coat's done, so we're going to go ahead and let this dry for 2 to 4 hours and let it set up. And then we can check on it and see how it is, see if it's good and protected. They say a third coat, but I'm thinking that after this second coat, it should be sufficient for what I'm looking for out of this finish. Okay, so it's been another day, and I've let this second coat of polyurethane dry and cure. So we are ready to go ahead and do final assembly on this mirror. So now that I've got the panels and all this glued up, and while it's setting up, I can go ahead and put in these keyhole hangers that I purchased to be able to hang the mirror on the wall. And you just put them in place where you want them to be. And then we just need to drill a couple of holes in here, not all the way through. I just kind of need to recess it a little bit so that when I put a screw in, it'll be able to move around in there. So I'm just gonna get a 1/2-inch bit, and I'm gonna drill a hole and then drill another hole beside it to kind of have it opened up a little bit. So I know the top of this keyhole is gonna be 9 inches from the top of the frame, so I can do the same on the other side. And when I do my measurements on the wall to drill my hole, I know how far down this is gonna be from the top of this frame. I know it's gonna be 9 inches. Now I got a self-centering bit. So the screws that it came with were a little bit long, and I don't want it poking through the front, so I got a little bit shorter screw. And I'm just going to go ahead and screw it into place. Okay, so here's the finished mirrors. I mean, obviously the clamps are still on it, but for the most part, this is complete. Once this dries, they'll be ready to be hung. So I think that's going to do it for this particular project. If this was helpful to you, hit the like button below, or please subscribe to my channel for other little projects like this. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.